And joining us now on Midday, Stanford Johnson. He's a candidate for Mississippi's 2nd Congressional District. Stanford, thanks for joining us on Midday, sir.
Thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity for the 2nd District.
You bet. So, did a little checking. It appears that you are running registered as a Republican. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Tell us a little bit about your background, Stanford, and what compelled you to enter this congressional race.
Okay. Well, I was born in Lauderdale County, Mississippi, in 1964. I was lived in Mississippi up to the age of 10, and fortunately, untimely death of my grandmother raised me. The family came together, decided that I was going to live with my aunt. At that time, in New York City. So I spent about 30 years of my life in New York City until I got fed up with it, with the people, and I wanted to come back home. And between that time, I lived in South Carolina, I lived in Georgia, and I went back home to Mississippi. And
okay, so
what compelled me to run for this? Sorry.
I'm just going to make sure, because the audio is a little difficult to hear, Stanford. I just want to clarify. So you were born in Meridian. You moved as a child to New York. You worked there for a while, I believe, as a truck driver. Is that correct? And then you moved back to Mississippi.
I am still a truck driver, sir.
Okay. Got you. So you want to represent your state from the 2nd Congressional District in Washington. Of course, you've got some other Republican opponents in the primary coming up next week, and then you'd like to be the candidate on the Republican ticket in the general to face purportedly at this point Benny Thompson, who is the incumbent that presently holds the seat. What are your goals? What do you stand for, and how do you distinguish yourself from the present office holder, Benny Thompson?
Well, Mr. Benny Thompson has been in office for 30 years, and 2 years to him. But I just feel that the 2nd District has been underserved for the past 28, 30 years. Okay? The 2nd District is one of the poorest districts in Mississippi.
Right.
And we all know that Mississippi is the poorest state in the union.
Right. Okay? 2nd District, just to clarify, you said the 2nd District is one of the poorest in Mississippi, and Mississippi is one of the poorest in the nation.
Yes.
Gotcha. So what are your legislative priorities? What would you work on should you be elected and seated in Congress representing Mississippi's 2nd Congressional District?
The one thing that I would consider term limits. We have to get term limits. Yes, sir. We got to have term limits.
Okay.
We have to get these politicians out of our government.
Okay. What do you think would be the perfect limit in terms of the number of terms for a member of the House and then a member of the Senate? Member of the House, of course, 2-year terms, Senate 6-year terms. What do you think is reasonable there?
I think that's a reasonable. Okay, the president's only allowed to run 2 terms in 8 years. Maybe 12 years is maximum. For the House and Senate, yes.
Okay. Most of the polls show, as we lead up to the midterms, that the top of the list of concerns for Americans is inflation, the cost of living, obviously the cost of gas. We just got through talking about that in the previous segment. The president went to the airwaves this morning to once again promote his plans. What do you think we ought to do there?
We've got to start drilling. We've got to drill. We've got to become energy independent once again. Under President Trump, we were energy independent. This buffoon comes in, he kills the pipeline, and merges this country into an economic crisis. The people need to understand what's going on right now is by design. Okay?
By design,
nothing to do with Ukraine or COVID. This is by design to hurt the American people. And it makes me angry, it should make them angry.
Okay. Well, you, as a truck driver, what's that look like when you pull up and put diesel in your tank?
It's terrible. It's terrible. You're paying almost triple for a gallon of gas. I got friends who are independent truck drivers. These guys are suffering. They're not making any money. They're at the point now now they're thinking about selling their trucks and getting out of the industry. And as we all know, the trucking industry is the bloodline of this country.
Right. All right. So, what about the border? What's your feeling about that?
The border needs to be. The war needs to be finished, and the border and the immigration laws needs to be enforced. Period.
Okay.
This regime right now is purposely allowing many millions of illegals in this country for the sole purpose of gaining power for eternity.
Did you happen to catch the president's speech last night concerning his plans? He laid out his plans for addressing gun violence, which included lots of provisions that would restrict gun ownership. What's your feeling about that?
It's the same old typical left-wing stuff. They have no answer. The only answer they can give is talking about taking guns away. And that's what the bottom line is all about. Every time one of these unfortunate incidents happen, they're going to go to that. Take away your Second Amendment rights, and I would not support any of that.
Yeah. The something that's high on the list for on the Democrat side of the aisle is voting rights, and they have issues with some of the voting rights legislation that's been passed in states. Texas and Georgia have been kind of at the top of the list. Here in Mississippi, we have a voter ID requirement. What's your thoughts about the federal government injecting themselves into the state level to oversee and control the elections process?
The federal government has no business injecting themselves into state matters. Voting is a state issue. It should be left to the states. But I do feel everyone who is eligible to vote should be able to produce an ID to vote.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, as you're probably aware, in spite of the voting laws that implemented and enacted in the state of Georgia, they just had their primary and they had record turnout.
What they had was record fraud again. That's what they had. They didn't have record turnout. They had record fraud. They haven't got it figured out yet. If they do not figure it out yet, November, this can't remember her name, will become governor. We have to have voter integrity in this country.
Yeah.
No, the Democrats do not want that.
Gotcha. All right. What about your opponents on the Republican side of the ticket as well coming up in the primary? Anything you'd like to say about that and how you distinguish yourself from those candidates?
Well, I met some of those gentlemen. They're nice gentlemen. But I just feel that I can say some things they're not going to be able to say. I'm going to be straight honest. As a black man in this country, I'm going to be able to say some things they're not going to be able to say. If they say some of the things I'm going to say, they're going to come out their mouth and they're going to call them racist and white supremacists. And that's the only game they have. It's me from them. I'm going to say it. I'm not going to be afraid to stand up against the lives matter crowd. I'm not going to be afraid to stand up against the LGBTQ crowd or whatever they call themselves. Stand up against them, and whatever they call me, it won't matter.
Yeah, so when President Biden was elected, he made climate change and so-called...
He wasn't elected. I'm sorry, he wasn't elected. Let's get it right. He was installed.
Okay, when he took office, he made climate change and so-called equity kind of centerpieces of his policymaking and administration in his agenda. As a black person in particular, what do you think about that? This push towards this equity.
It's total garbage. There's no such thing as equity. Everybody in this country, you have a right to work and earn and go as far as you want to go. There's nothing impeding any black person. When they tell you that, they're simply lying to you.
Got you.
There is no white supremacy. There is no statute. There is no racial laws denying anyone from going where they want to go in this country. Lie is nothing but talking points for the Democratic Party.
Got you. Stanford, well, good luck to you, sir, and thank you so much for coming on the program today and talking about your campaign and your candidacy to represent Mississippi's 2nd Congressional District. Take care.
Thank you, sir. You take care.
Stanford Johnson, again, a candidate for Mississippi's 2nd Congressional District. And, folks, most importantly, the primary is just a few days away. It's next Tuesday, June the 7th. Get out and vote. We'll be right back here on Middays from the Element Wealth Studios. Stay with us.